I will always defend the public interest. I will always defend people's jobs.
Tonight, let the campaigning begin. The PM calls an election for October 21st.
One of the biggest catch the year before was something like 30,000 sockeye. This year it might be a few hundred.
Crisis on the Skeena River. BC First Nations see a drastic drop in salmon this year.
3 up in there. Very nice. There'll be butterflies by this evening.
Oh, there'll be butterflies this afternoon.
And save the monarchs. We meet a couple who are helping out the long-distance butterflies. Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Dennis Ward. Canada's federal election campaign kicked off today, and it will be a short one, just under 6 weeks. APTN's Todd Lamarand was at Rideau Hall today as Prime Minister Trudeau made it official.
Trudeau, along with his wife Sophie, marched into Rideau Hall, where the Prime Minister asked Governor General Julie Payette to dissolve Parliament. In his speech and Q&A with reporters, he had very little to say about Indigenous people.
I think Canadians know very well that I am focused on making the right choices for Canadians and moving forward in a way that benefits the middle class, people working hard to join it, that moves forward on reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, that demonstrates the only way to build a strong economy moving forward is to protect the environment at the same time. We are all in for building a better future for Canadians.
Questions from reporters focused a lot on the SNC-Lavalin scandal. But Trudeau continually defended his actions as protecting jobs.
My job as Prime Minister is to be there to stand up for and defend Canadians' jobs, whether it's communities right across the country or pensioners or families. I will always defend the public interest. I will always defend people's jobs. Merci tout le monde.
So that's it. We're off to the races. But what does this mean for Indigenous people who intend to vote? Back in 2015, a record 61.5% did vote, and that translated into a record 10 members of Parliament getting voted in. This time around, there may not be that many. A couple of them have already decided they're not going to run. For example, Romeo Saganash isn't running again for the NDP. Don Rusnick isn't running again for the Liberals. But there are a lot of interesting races out there. We do know that, for example, Nunavut, Winnipeg Centre, Northern Saskatchewan will elect an Indigenous MP. Nanaimo Ladysmith is another interesting riding. Right now it's represented by Green Party member Paul Manley, but expect a strong challenge from NDP Bob Chamberlain and Michelle Corfield from the Liberals. Both of those are Indigenous candidates. And Nikki Ashton will be challenged in northern Manitoba. Judy Klassen is running for the Liberals there, and Sierra Bird is running for the Conservatives. And in Kenora, former Chief Rudy Turtle of Grassy Narrows First Nation is running for the NDP. It's interesting that he's running federally, as it's his First Nation that suffered decades of mercury poisoning. Another interesting riding will be in the Okanagan, as the wife of Union and BC Indian Chief Stuart Phillip, Joan Phillip, is running for the NDP there. And in Andrew Scheer's own riding, a Métis fellow by the name of Jordan Ames Sinclair running for the Liberals, so he's got the thankless task of running against the Conservative Party leader there. Another interesting battle may be in northern Saskatchewan, Georgina Jollibaw's riding. The NDP MP can expect a strong challenge from former Chief Tammy Cook-Searson of the Liberals. And let's not forget Jody Wilson-Raybould. She's running as an independent in Vancouver Granville. She was of course at the center of the SNC-Lavalin scandal, and a lot of Indigenous voters are not happy with the way Justin Trudeau and the Liberal government treated her. So that may translate into far less votes this way as perhaps the First Nations decide to sit out this election.
Todd Lamarand, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Voters in Manitoba have re-elected the Progressive Conservative Party. Brian Pallister will return as Premier, but the party lost a few seats in Tuesday's election. Picking up those seats was the NDP, led by former broadcaster and hip-hop artist Wab Kinew. Kinew remained upbeat in his concession speech.
But I don't think we were defeated tonight. I think Manitobans sent a very, very strong message. And the seats that we took back made it very clear that Manitobans want us, the New Democrats, to not only be the conscience of Manitoba, not only to be the opposition of Manitoba, but to be the progressive voice for Manitoba.
Forward. Forward to balanced budgets. Forward to better care and sooner. Forward to new schools for our children and grandchildren. Forward to a stronger economy for all of us. And forward to more affordability for families with lower taxes and more money right on the kitchen tables of Manitoba families.
And in the north, it's also a busy time for elections. And big changes in leadership are exciting community members. Our Charlotte Mort Jacobs sat in with the Yellowknife's Dene at their swearing-in ceremony.
There's excitement in the air for Yellowknife's Dene, the election of a chief and council. It's honored through traditions, but marked with a new spirit. 7 out of 10 councillors are women this time around. For Jessica Deliri, it's her first time serving.
I remember before I ran for council, I think it was just accountability. What has chief and council done? What have they accomplished? I want to be able to bring that type of accountability and say, I checked it off my list, and this is something that the community as a whole needs.
I, Kateri Lynn, hereby accept the office of chief to which I have been elected.
There's also a shift in who ran this year.
Well, I always had the thought in the back of my head that I was going to run one day. I just didn't expect it to be so soon.
Kateri Lynn is just 19 years old. After helping found the local youth group, she decided she wanted to give youth an even bigger voice.
If you were to go to any of the youth, a lot of them wouldn't have any idea what to tell you. I want to make sure that we have at least monthly meetings with the youth, so we all just come together, we share concerns, we say what's going on with us, basically what we want to see. And
Lynn said she's ready to address the elephant in the room when it comes to tough issues, like youth mental health.
Youth are depressed, and it's just they don't have a place to go to, they don't have a healthy home or a healthy relationships, and they don't have anyone to talk to. I hope that we can change that and make sure that we actually start reaching out to these people.
Although both Lynn and Deliri say they had some people who doubted them along the way, they are ready to do their best using their strengths.
I'm a mom. I can take distractions. I can handle the punches. I can roll with them, and I can handle the distractions. I mean, my kids.
Charlotte Mort Jacobs, APTN National News, Dada.
And we'd like to hear what you have to say. Here's how to continue that conversation. Send your emails to news@aptn.ca. Find us online at aptnnews.ca and on youtube.com/aptnnews. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest Indigenous news. Many Mohawk iron workers helped raise the original World Trade Center towers in New York City. In 2001, they were also there to clean up the remnants after the 9/11 attacks. For some, this has come at a great cost to their health. Lindsay Richardson has that story.
Firefighter Kevin McLaughlin.
In the 18 years since the collapse of the World Trade Center, the number of lives lost quietly continues to grow.
Police officer Christopher S. McMurray.
Today, on the anniversary of the September 11th terrorist attacks, long-overlooked names of first responders and frontline workers are spoken aloud in this New York City church.
People that have died as a result of getting strange lung illnesses and cancers that were attributed to their actually working on the site. Unfortunately, the legacy of that attack will continue to live on. I mean, it's sad, but it's happening. People are sick. People are still dying of it.
Under Sheriff Stephen McLeod.
Invited to read this year was Lindsay LeBourne, a fourth-generation ironworker, chief at the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake, and one of the first recovery workers at the Ground Zero site. The mass grave of mangled steel, he recalls, was a far cry from memories of the tower's slow, confident ascent to the height of the Manhattan skyline.
I grew up in New York. I was also an iron worker by trade, and my dad worked on the World Trade Center. My uncles worked on it, cousins, and I actually used to watch it go up because I lived in Brooklyn, and we would go to Brooklyn Heights, and it overlooks the Manhattan, and we could see the building as it progressed. And when it was attacked, I actually felt a personal affront to me.
And when they came down, he was called to cart away the wreckage.
Every step you took, there was this fine, like talcum powder, being stirred up, and it was just eerily quiet. And then you could see down the street like the skeleton of what was left of the Trade Center. It was surreal.
Now hanging at the 9/11 Memorial Museum are dozens of tin-type portraits recognizing the toil of Mohawk ironworkers. Like LeBourne, many still experience concern for their own health during annual checkups.
They test your lungs, your breathing capacity, your blood, and psychological. It's a study that's, I guess, is going to go on for the rest of my life and everybody else that was there's lives.
You are ignoring them.
Advocates like former Daily Show host Jon Stewart have long criticized Congress for neglecting or ignoring people who have died in the years following 9/11.
Your indifference cost these men and women their most valuable commodity, time.
This year, the museum unveiled a memorial pavilion in tribute to the lost workers. But in Mohawk communities, they've been remembered for years.
We can't forget all those people that were innocent people, I might add, that were working, just going about their everyday lives, and were killed.
East Marion firefighter Lloyd Miller.
And although it's a relatively new venture, LeBourne feels this calling of the names is one that should continue to be heard. Lindsay Richardson, APTN National News, Montreal.
Time for a quick break, but stick around. There's much more to come. Here's a look at Thursday's weather forecast starting on the East Coast. Showers in 16 for St. John's, showers in 17 for Halifax, 10 under sunny skies in Nain, 13 in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, 20 with showers for Montreal, 16 under sunny skies in Saguenay, 22 and showers for London, 22 under the sun for Ottawa, showers and 14 for Thunder Bay, rain and 15 in Sioux Lookout. 17 is your high under sunny skies for Churchill and Puckatawagan. 13 and showers for Winnipeg, 11 with rain for Brandon. 13 and rain for Regina, Swift Current, Estevan, and Yorkton. 15 under sunny skies for Uranium City and Stony Rapids. Welcome back. Salmon populations have been declining across British Columbia for years, but this year was one of the worst, and that's creating a challenge for First Nations who harvest salmon as a traditional food. APTN's Lee Wilson has that story.
Walter Joseph is the fisheries manager for the Wet'suwet'en. In his 23 years on the job, he's never seen such a drastic decline in all 5 species of salmon on the Skeena River. Sockeye salmon here are showing the biggest losses.
When I started, I think one of the biggest catch the year before was something like 30,000 sockeye. This year it might be a few hundred.
80 kilometers down the Skeena River, Gittinyow fisheries head biologist Mark Cleveland is seeing a drop in salmon. In fact, since they began counting fish 16 years ago, the decline has been steady.
We count all 5 species of salmon through the facility on an annual basis. What we've noticed since the inception of the program is that overall our salmon abundance has been going down, and it's quite concerning.
At 580 kilometers, the Skeena is the second largest river in BC, and First Nations who live alongside it count on fish as a food staple. Worry lack of salmon will have a big impact.
An awful lot of the community really depend on sockeye for food fish, and for the past number of years we simply have not been able to get our food fish to meet the needs.
Both Wet'suwet'en and Git'iyao fisheries have heard reports of climate change being a cause, but to them the problem is more complex.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any smoking guns, but we've heard a lot about the blob in the ocean where we're seeing higher temperatures and it's affecting productivity and food webs. More particularly, what we're seeing in the Kitwanga watershed where we're working is we're seeing higher highs, water flows, and lower lows.
Low waters make salmon easy prey to predators and a challenge to spawn. Joseph states that potential developments of liquefied natural gas in the north can increase greenhouse gas emissions.
That's going to add to global warming, and that's going to make a bad situation worse. And the federal government really is kind of ignoring all that just for the economy.
The Department of Fisheries and Oceans has closed the Skeena River to all fishing because of low numbers. But there is some good news. Wet'suwet'en fisheries are operating a tagging program, and estimates so far point to a slightly improved return of salmon next year.
The estimate, the preliminary estimate, is about 16,000 above the canyon here, which isn't too bad.
Lee Wilson, APTN National News, Northern British Columbia.
Homeless advocates have come up with a very direct way to send a message to the Mayor of Vancouver that they need more housing. They've set up a makeshift tent city right on the front lawn of City Hall. They say the mayor has not met with the residents who were dispersed from a tent city in a downtown park last week. They've also placed signs and banners to educate the public about the lack of affordable housing.
He was giving a nudge to Oppenheimer residents to get out of the park. We figured we'd give them a nudge back and say that if you're going to kick people out of Oppenheimer without any consultation, without any conversation, they may end up in your front yard, they may end up in your backyard. So we're kind of horrified in the mayor's complete process to try and just sweep people back into the shadows, and figured rather than being in the shadows, why not be right here?
A two-spirited couple has won big on a reality show. We'll hear from the winners after the break. Here's a look at the rest of Thursday's weather forecast, picking back up in northern Alberta. Sunny and 21 for high level, 20 with showers for Fort McMurray. Sun's out in Calgary, Red Deer, and Edmonton with a high of 20. Rain in 19 for Vancouver, 18 with showers for Campbell River. 20 under sunny skies in Fort Nelson, showers, and 15 in Dease Lake. 18 in Dawson, 19 for Whitehorse and Beaver Creek. 20s in Norman Wells, Wrigley, Fort Simpson, Trout Lake, and Fort Liard. A high of +1 for Sax Harbor, 8 in Paulatuck. Sunny and 16 for Baker Lake and Whale Cove, 17 under sunny skies for Chesterfield. Snow and a high of 2 in Arctic Bay, snow and -1 in Resolute. Welcome back. It's that time of year when those distinctive black and orange butterflies take flight on an epic migration south. Not only do monarch butterflies have a marathon journey, they face other challenges. Here's Annette Francis with how a couple from Hiawatha First Nation are helping them along.
Not many of us get a bird's eye view like this. For Sandra and Barry Moore, it's something they look forward to.
3 up in there. Very nice. There'll be butterflies by this evening.
Oh, there'll be butterflies this afternoon.
Monarch butterfly numbers have been on the decline for the past few decades due to the use of pesticides, habitat loss, climate change, and disease. But the Moores are hoping to change that. After watching how their niece did it, they've taken on a project to ensure the monarchs can hatch in a safe place.
I saw what she had for a cage, and I thought, well, I built a cage. So we built a cage and we had no problem finding lots of caterpillars and eggs to put in it. There's lots of them. And if you can get them in the farmer's field before he cuts the hay, then you can find all kinds of them. But after you cut the hay, of course, the hay bind destroys the whole everything.
The egg, the larva, the chrysalis.
So that generation of monarchs is destroyed.
So for the past few years, over a period of about 6 weeks, the Moores can frequently be seen heading to the fields to collect the main source of food for their caterpillars, milkweed. According to Sandra, they eat a lot before they transform into a chrysalis. This year, they've been able to send over 100 monarchs on their way on a 5,000-kilometer journey where they'll spend the winter in the forests of Mexico.
Oh, it's like your kids leaving home. There's part of it that's a relief because you don't have to go hunt milkweed anymore. You don't have to go out every morning in the cold and see what they're doing. But it's really sad because it's over, it's over till next year.
She says they've learned a lot about the orange and black species.
This is a girl. There's no black spots on the lower wings. I'll show you what the boys look like. That's a girl. This is a boy. See those two black spots on the lower wings? Here and here. That's a boy. And as soon as these guys are warmed up enough, they'll be gone.
There's other educational benefits of the project as well.
The number of people who just drop by just to observe, and the kids, the daycare, we have daycare here, and the kids come down and watch the caterpillars and put them in their hand. It gets the next generation and get an interest.
The Moores say they'll continue with their Monarch Butterfly project for as long as it's needed. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Hiawatha First Nation.
Some great work they're doing there. Now take a look at this. Raptor Mania and the We the North taken to a whole new level. New Brunswick farmers intricately etched We the North with a raptor dino into a 6-acre corn maze that makes for this spectacular visual. Would have taken a little time. A two-spirited couple from Alberta have won first place in CTV's Amazing Race Canada. Anthony Johnson from Navajo Nation in Arizona and Satellite Cree Nation's Dr. James Bakokis defeated 9 other teams in a series of races from cities across Canada. The married couple win a trip around the world, 2 cars, and $250,000. The couple says daily smudges help them win.
It's a sense of honor to represent Indigenous people on the national stage, to show that we're competitive, to show that we're resilient, to show that we're still here.
And we wanted to represent the teachings of, natural law, kindness, love, determination, and honesty as much as we could every day throughout the race, and race in a way that our parents and grandparents, the people from our community would be proud of, and that our ancestors would also be proud of too.
Huge congrats to Anthony and James. They've made a lot of people proud. That's your APTN National News for this Wednesday. There's much more on our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here tomorrow.